6:30 p.m. Present at the meeting, President Vachon, Councilmember Charbonneau, Councilmember Curtis, on Zoom from Costa Rica without a margarita in hand, Councilmember Ufford Chase, Treasurer James Johnson, City Manager Jonathan Delebre. Anyone else up there? No. I have our police chief. I have our DPW, and anybody else that I cannot see because I cannot see anyone. Okay. Next item on the agenda is additions, deletions to the agenda. President Sean?
I do. I was wondering if we could have a discussion about changing the start of the meeting times, the regular meeting times from 6:30 to 6.
Yes, sir. All good with that?
Yep.
Councilmember Charbonneau?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Curtis?
No, thanks.
Councilmember Ufford Chase?
Nothing to add.
Treasurer Johnson? City Manager? I'm gonna.
Yeah.
You wanna go? Go.
Well, just the one. So I'd like to move the LEMP, Local Emergency Management Plan, to the May 6th meeting. Bruce at NVDA is not quite ready making the changes, so that'll be up for the next meeting.
All in favor? Good with that? Okay, I have an addition. I'm like to add the approval of a temporary easement regarding the East Main Equities LLC in the city of Newport. And I'd like to put that on right after our discussion on 6:30 p.m. and then our discussion on consent agenda. I'd like to put that before our discussion on consent agenda. All in favor of that? Okay with that? Okay, so let's go to the discussion about moving the meeting from 6:30 to 6.
Yeah, so meetings have been running significantly later than they have historically. Just an effort to help the board be a little more awake. I know it puts a little time crunch getting here, which I completely understand. I have 2 kids, getting them ready and then leaving the house by 6 is a struggle. So just discussion what everybody's thinking on changing that from 6:30 to 6.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm happy to flex.
So may I have a motion to change the council meetings from 6:30 to 6 p.m.?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Comments? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those say nay. Ayes have it, motion is carried. See you all at 6 p.m. Would you like to adjourn at 6:05? Would you like to discuss? Okay,
So starting with the May 6th meeting.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the temporary easement. There was a little bit of confusion regarding the contract with East Main Equities and the city of Newport. And so some work had begun prior to an actual closing that took place. The department head, Mr. Bernier, and city manager, and I had a discussion. I went over and spoke with the members of East Main Equities LLC, and the closing is going to take place. The money is in place for that closing. The members of East Main Equities LLC, 2 of which is Dina Gray and her brother Keith Gray, as well as 2 other parties, agreed to let us have a temporary easement, which was already written and looked at by both sides, the attorneys. And so for that, and that will be for consideration, it's at $25,000 for that easement. And then work can begin. So once we get that approved, the work can begin. You good? So may I have a motion to approve the temporary easement between East Main Equities LLC and the city of Newport, and to allow the city manager to sign that easement?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Comment? Ms. Bjornley, could you please come up and speak, identify yourself?
Sure. Jennifer Gearling, resident Newport, Vermont. So I just have a question. Is this $25,000 cost for the easement, was that budgeted originally? Or is this additional amount, or where's the money coming from? What's the purpose of the easement? I'm assuming that this is an easement that allows the city to access the property, is that correct?
So the, I'm gonna respond.
Okay.
So, the easement was needed, and things needed to be done to the easement, okay, in order for the work to begin. And it's all part of access to the property that's going to be purchased, but because the purchase didn't happen timely, the work had started going through the easement, and there was some removal of things on the easement and so on, and some work had just begun. The consideration, the $25,000, is for the easement access rights until the closing takes place and for any cleanup, et cetera, that has to happen there. We do have the money. We have all of the money to be able to do the closing and pay for this easement.
So is the easement for the city to access the property?
Yes.
Or for, okay.
Okay, so I have, any other? Yes.
I have a question, but I'll wait till you vote.
I have a motion, yes.
Sorry, where exactly is the address of the business? Okay, so it's for the water tower, correct?
Right, this is exactly, so we have all the funds, that's what that's for. So I have a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Yes.
Madam Mayor, that answers one of my questions, because I didn't know what the location was, what the project was. Is it in the packet? Where can I get a copy of the packet?
There is no copy of the packet because we are first going to the closing. And so once we close on that and the city manager signs off on the temporary easement, we can get you that.
When is the closing, or is that not being determined yet, or?
Well, it wasn't, it'll be within the next 2 weeks. It wasn't determined because I had to have it approved first here. So so we have, attorneys are ready within the next 2 weeks to have it done.
So the 25,000 is for permanent easement to the new water tower?
Temporary easement. It's a temporary easement until closing, so they can begin work and start to do their work.
So that's 25,000, are you gonna have to pay more after that, or 25,000?
That's different. The 25,000 is for the easement rights. The closing was, I think, 104 and change without factoring in legal fees, et cetera. So it'd be about 115 to 125.
How much?
115, say to 125 estimate, okay, because we don't know costs and closing fees and legal fees.
So is that 25,000 on top of that, or is that
Yes.
combined?
25,000 is the consideration for the access to the easement and to begin the work now.
Okay.
Okay, next. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. First, I'd like to just explain that a consent agenda is actually a practice that groups routine business and reports it into one agenda item. the consent agenda can be approved in one action rather than filing motions on each individual item. So if we use a consent agenda, it can save the council from a few minutes to a half hour or so, okay? And it's only for routine items so that we can move them quickly. So the mayor will put on the agenda what belongs in the consent agenda, and that can appear as a list on the consent agenda, on the agenda, or it can appear as an attachment. But the process is that we're going to be putting the consent agenda here, but first we're going to be voting if the council even wants to do a consent agenda. Okay, so I would actually ask the council members if they would like to remove any of the items on the consent agenda that appears each meeting. And you don't need a reason, okay? You can just say, I want that removed, and we would move it to either a regular agenda item or table it or see what needs to be done. So if you want, so that if you don't want to vote for all of the agenda items in one sweep, you just need to alert me and say, I would like to remove the regular meeting minutes of April 1, 2024. And that will be removed from the final vote of the entire consent agenda. If you do remove one, the motion would be, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus what was removed? Okay, so you will see what's on this particular consent agenda. It's meetings, special meetings, and so we've been signing warrants and so on, so now you know what you're signing. Coming forward, you're going to be able to say, okay, these pack of warrants that were signed on this day, these were the payroll warrants, okay, as opposed to packets coming forward and you sign these warrants. You'll be able, if there are any liquor license vendor permits and things like that, they can all come forward at one time and we can have them identified and we can vote for those. And as I said, if you don't want an item on the consent agenda, you just need to say you look at the council member. So pretty much, it would be, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda with as it is or less whatever's on there? So before that even begins, because this council has never actually approved consent agendas, this is up to you all, right? I'm gonna ask for a motion for the council to be allowed to use consent agenda. Who has the hand up?
You got a question?
Who does?
Rick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Upper Chase. How come I couldn't see his hand up?
No problem, Madam Mayor. I think I should probably wait for my comment until after we make the decision about whether we're going to use consent agendas in general.
You sure? Okay.
It's just something I'd like to remove.
Okay. Let's see if we even get there. Right, okay. Okay, so if we have a motion or not?
Yeah, I'll make the motion so that the council use the consent agenda item.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Comments? Further
You wanna
discussion?
do this now?
We're
or in the
only
future?
making, no, we're not doing this. We're asking if the council would like to have consent agendas. We haven't come to this yet. Okay? So we have a motion and a second. Okay? Just to use consent agendas, not to approve this that's here right now.
My only question is with the item E, liquor licenses and vendors, if those come in last minute, does he have a moment to explain those to us before we vote on them?
Yeah, of course.
So I did. Can I
But-
speak?
Yeah, absolutely, but I don't want to go to
Into
the actual detail of a consent agenda that we're first going to decide if we're going to vote on until we finish the
My
fact
question was
that
just to
we're.
make sure that we have the information before we.
Correct.
Of course, of
And
course.
I would say typically, if items and typically it's gonna be, like you mentioned, item E, right, where stuff might come in last minute. I think we can still get those in front of you, it just wouldn't be in the packet.
And there's also, Councilmember, nothing that stops us from continuing to add additional at the new business. Okay?
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Yes, we've already done what's back to us at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't fully understand this.
Okay.
And just, is the entire agenda gonna be a consent?
No. So, only these routine items, say, would be part of a consent agenda. Okay, so you could not put appointments to DRB in there. So in other words, instead of, you know how sometimes I will turn around and say, I'd like to approve the minutes of April 1st and April 3rd, I have to do 2 motions, now I would not have to do 2 motions.
So there would be one motion for consent
The cons-
agenda, everything in there would be approved.
Correct. And if you don't want something approved within that consent agenda, you would just say, I would like the liquor licenses removed, and then we will remove that.
Would we see what we're approving for our liquor licenses
Yes.
and vendor permits?
Mhm.
So that would be itemized on
Yes. So you'd understand. And if you're not sure about what you might be voting for, ask for it to be removed or ask for it to be explained. Okay? So all this pretty much is, it's an expeditious way to get the minutes approved and things like that, so we don't have to go through every single item. It gets easier once you do it a couple of times, but right now, this is solely to see that the council wants to use consent agendas. So I have a motion and seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
the,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Now we're going to go to the actual consent agenda that is on this agenda. Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to request that the minutes from April 1st be removed for further discussion.
Okay. Councilmember, you don't have to, there's no reason, we will do this, but I have one question. Is this based upon the information you wanted updated in it? Or is this something entirely different?
No, just for that brief update.
It's
for
updated.
correction.
It's updated. They are updated.
Thank you, I missed that.
No, that's okay. So do you want to remove it, or would you like us to just explain that it was updated?
Yeah, so just to clarify, my only concern about the minutes is that in the new business section, I was not listed as having abstained on the vote about the liquor permits for Eden Specialty Ciders. And I asked that I be listed as an abstention because my sister-in-law owns the company. So as long as that's been fixed, I have no objection to leaving the minutes in the consent agenda.
Okay, and let's just confirm. Treasurer has confirmed. Okay?
Thank you.
So, in this consent agenda, we have the regular minutes of April 1, the special minutes of April 3, and I'm gonna ask our city manager and our treasurer to jump in a little, because this is the first time, so that everybody's comfortable. We have the payroll warrants of March 2024 through April 2024.
Yeah, and I just put arbitrary dates
I caught that.
for now, because I didn't have the warrants yet to actually put in dates. Jim and I talked about this today. Going forward, I'm gonna be getting the warrants on Friday to include in the packet, and just putting the dates that are on those warrants in here so that you can check and see which dates correspond to which warrants. But
Okay.
for this particular one, I didn't have any in the packet, so I'm not sure what Jim has to hand out.
There is no payroll warrant. Historically, we've never done one. We
Okay,
can do it,
but
but
we're
it
going to
won't
do
be
it.
ready.
Okay.
I won't until next week.
So we're going to delete the payroll warrants. The next item on here, and this is, we're walking through this one, so that it's more for understanding. Okay, so the next one would be accounts payable.
Yeah, and so in my experience with prior towns, you typically wait till a legislative body to approve it. Here in the city, we have too many bills to let that happen. So typically the mayor or council president will come in on the off weeks to sign the warrants to get the checks out. So going forward, this one will be all of those, even the in-between weeks that the council will then see, not the invoices, but just the warrant piece. And if you have a question, then you can reach out to Jim and say, I'd like to see this warrant and for further detail. But it gives you that snapshot of what money's going out the door, who it's going to. So you have a little bit more information prior to the starting meeting.
So on this one, we're approving the warrants like we normally do. Next time there'll be a warrant in the back.
Okay, so we're going to remove these accounts payable warrants for this round. Okay. Next would be the liquor licenses, vendor permits, and special events permits. Are you're following the council member, so we're removing that. So liquor licenses, vendor permits, and special events permits.
Okay, so I have all those, but I didn't get in here in time to get them
Okay.
in the packet.
Okay, so we'll remove it
You'll have
from
to
this
have to
round.
do all those from this round.
Okay, that's
Going
okay.
forward, you'll have them in the back.
Okay, good?
Yeah, but there's an error under April 3rd minutes, so.
Well, where are you?
April 3rd special meeting minutes. There's an error, so I don't want to include that either.
What's the error?
It says Mr. Curtis abstained and I voted nay.
Is that the updated or what? Let me see. Oh, I see. So this is a good catch. So on the increase to the city of Newport's line of credit, Mr. Curtis didn't abstain. He voted nay on that one. So we need to
I'll change that.
correct that.
Just approve of the correction.
I just wrote it on your paper.
It's okay.
So would you like to have that approved with the, under the consent agenda, approved with correction, or would you like to remove that one and we'll vote separately?
Approved with correction is fine.
Okay, so may I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes a correction on the April 1st, 2024 minutes, and removes the payroll warrants, the accounts payable, and the liquor licenses, etc.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say-
Aye.
Keep forgetting. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay. We have removed the next item on the agenda, local emergency management plan. So now we are going to the next item, which is additional city council with an anticipated vote.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Are we gonna approve the vendor permits and liquor licenses?
Do you want to do that now? I was going to do it at the end, like we always do them.
okay.
Since we don't have it as a line item on the agenda, we thought we'd do them in the regular course, and then going forward, do it at the consent.
Okay.
So, it's common practice for cities and towns to have more than one appointed city attorneys. I went and spoke with several firms and discussed this at the last several council meetings ago. Spoke with the city manager. So we discussed adding additional attorneys. The attorneys that we have decided would be appropriate for the city of Newport also conferred with our current city attorneys. They would actually complement our current city attorneys because they have this particular firm has expertise in municipal investigations for city liabilities, waste, fraud, and abuse, and litigation skills specific to the city when it's threatened with lawsuits, as well as our current city managers. But we also would be given a dedicated paralegal from this firm, which could help with public records requests at a lower cost than an attorney billable hour. The firm is the Sheehy, Furlong and Beam firm, and I would like to have a motion, please, to appoint the firm of Sheehy, Furlong and Beam as additional city attorneys.
I will make the motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
What's the name of the firm?
Sheehy, Sheehey, Furlong, Furlong, and BMBEHMPC.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I have Burlington. I have a motion and a second. Any further
I
discussion?
think I know
Yes.
the answer, but for the public,
Mhm.
we're not like now paying double.
Oh, no,
There's-
absolutely not.
Can you just explain that to me?
Sure, we are not paying. Okay, we will be able, we will be able to select which the attorney that needs to be for a specific project. Our regular city attorneys will go forward and they have their projects, but sometimes you get overburdened. And so, and sometimes you need maybe a conflict attorney, and that's where this is really going. There will not be two firms working on one project by itself. So I have a motion and a second,
Sorry.
and I still have questions, go right
Kind of
ahead.
related to his, so is there like a list of what our current council would cover and what our potential new council?
We
and where
will
that-
get all of that, and then going forward, with this, and that will stay within our attorney-client. And so, and then the city manager and I can discuss on the new, cases or whatever happens, and there may be none. So we just have that right now, and so we don't have to make any special meetings if something comes up and we need to do that.
Have we had issues with our current attorney not being able to provide any answers to questions we may have?
It's not so much issues with current attorneys, it is a matter of specialty areas and things that are coming up that, and overload and timing, and so it's not a matter of issues, it's just a matter of having both, and that's why we had these attorneys speak to the other attorneys as well.
What do we have coming up that we need specialists for?
We are going through some, waste, fraud, and abuse investigations, and we may have some potential litigation. So, we want to be able to make sure that we have enough resources, appropriate legal resources ready for us.
And what will it cost us to retain them?
So they actually came to the lower rate of $250 an hour.
How much?
$250 an hour.
50 or 50?
250. They are lower than, their billable rate's much higher, but they have agreed to do the $250 an hour rate here, except for the paralegal, which would be lower.
Do we have a price on that?
We don't have a set price, but it'll definitely be substantially lower than the $250. Okay.
If we vote to put them on as the additional, then there's no Is there a binding contract we're signing? Is there a cost we pay them to be on standby for us?
So we will get an engagement letter, and it will be without a retainer, and it will be just as the time is built, just as we have right now a contract with our current city attorneys. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, just to refresh my memory, who is the current attorney, Shisco Page, and is that correct? Fletcher, and how much do they charge?
They just increased their rates within reason. I want to say, from memory, it's $275, but I have to check.
Could somebody
Yes,
let me
we
know,
can
please?
definitely check that. It was done several weeks ago, and they are still our attorneys, okay? So this is just a second, okay? Because we do have conflicts and certain things that come up.
So it's about $275 for Shisco and $250 for these new folks.
Correct. So,
Is there a minimum, or is there a minimum amount of, do they bill by the hour, or?
yes, attorneys bill by the hour.
So if they're on a city council call for 10 minutes, you're still paying for the full hour?
You're paying for that percentage of time unless they're traveling here, and each one's it's always going to be different. Professionals bill based upon, the time they spend, and oftentimes, sometimes you'll have an attorney who says, well, I was here and I did this, and it was no charge.
Right. So if they're on a Zoom call like tonight, and they're only on for 10 minutes, then when this you guys aren't paying the full hour, you're paying for the 15 minutes.
Plus, I'm assuming it would be the 50 minutes plus whatever surrounded them getting ready to be there.
Prep time, yeah.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda, appointments. First item under appointments, DRB member appointments with an anticipated vote. So before we go into who is up, I would like to let you know that Section 4460 requires the city council to appoint members to the DRB. City manager, do we have anyone up for appointments?
Other than the letter that was in the packet from our planning and zoning director.
Okay. How did you see that? Oh, okay. Councilmember Chase?
Madam Mayor, when it's appropriate, I'm not sure if I should wait until after the motion is on the table. I do have a question about the action we're trying to take. Is it appropriate to ask that question now?
Sure, go right ahead.
So, as I read the letter from the DRB board, they are recommending that all three of the people who expressed interest be seated on the board, and suggested that all three appear to be qualified, which I think is great news. I found it a little bit confusing. There was a final sentence of the letter that said that they recommended that we increase the size of the board only to 7 and maintain an odd number of people on the board. But as I looked at the number of people currently on the board, it looks to me as if there are 5, and adding 3 more would take us to 8. And so I was confused about the fact that the first paragraph appeared to go ahead and recommend that we seat all 3, and the second paragraph, or the last sentence, appeared to negate that recommendation. I'd just like some clarification.
Yeah, it appears that they would like to have the odd number as opposed to an even number.
So if I could follow up, I wonder what happens if there is, in some instance, a 4-4 vote, does it come to the council for the council to make the final decision and be the final arbiter?
No, they will actually go and work it through, hopefully, and revisit it and continue the way we would continue with, unless, if we didn't have the extra vote to be able to make that decision, we would just continue to go forward and discuss and hopefully resolve.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And one final question. So if if we were to choose tonight to seat all three of them and go to 8, I assume that we're not in violation of anything in the charter about the total number that can be seated on that board. Is that correct?
Not at all, we are perfectly in compliance.
Thank you. That answers all my questions.
You're welcome. So, do I have a motion? Does somebody want to make a motion, or do I want to make
I have a question.
a motion? Okay,
Last week or the week before, didn't we increase it to 9?
yes,
In fact, I think Chris might have, at 9.
yes, we have 9 for them. So if you want to include yourself in the motion, go right on.
Well, there should be a motion and a second before we discuss it.
Right, so you want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. What is the motion?
I'm sorry. To appoint the 3 candidates listed in our memo. Jay Walsh, Lori Grimm, and Andrew Touchette to be appointed to the Development Review Board for a 2-year term.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Now, do you have any further questions before I?
No, I'll just say that I was on the review board a while ago, well, quite a while ago now, and I don't ever remember a tie. And the unique thing about the review board is they're a quasi-judicial board. They are the judge and the jury. And if you're at a stalemate, you stay behind closed doors and work it out. And I guess that could happen, but I don't ever remember it happening. That's all.
Anything, Councilman?
So we're keeping it at 8 as opposed to 9?
Yes, but there's still a seat if anybody wants to still be considered.
Well, no, again, Frank Cheney wanted a number. Because if we do run into a stalemate, even if they're locked behind the door, sometimes people won't budge.
It happens.
Madam Mayor, we could advertise, if the council chooses to appoint these 3 tonight and we have a vacancy, we could advertise to fill that final position.
Correct.
Or could add Kevin's name.
That's right.
No, but
That's a good point.
is Miss Coburn here?
Okay, so let me handle this.
I am here.
Okay. Thank you. So we're talking appointments. We have a motion and a second, and I have another question. Go right ahead. Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment, which is that in general, I think when we have well-qualified people in this community who want to serve in key positions like this, it is wise for us to encourage it wherever and whenever we can. I'm thrilled with these 3 candidates being added to that board, and I think the board's been doing great work, and so I'm looking forward to actually increasing it with people who really want to be there with them.
More questions? Okay. Any comments?
Dennis Jeanette, DRB member. At your last meeting, you did make a motion and a second to approve the board to be a 9-member board. We interviewed 3 very competent people, and we suggested that any one of them could be on the board. However, Mr. Cheney, to answer Mr. Alfred Chase's question, suggested that it be an odd number down to 7, where it would be a little bit more manageable. So we were asking you to choose 2 out of the 3 members. If you want to leave it at 3, then you're going to have to stay with your 9 that you suggested previously. We have no problem with that.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
So to clarify, it's up to 9, you're gonna have to have 9. Any other comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Congratulations to all 3 of you. Thank you for stepping up. Next appointment, Planning Commission member appointments, anticipated vote. It should be noted that planning commissioners, the appointed members, the majority of members that actually end up on the planning commissions, we must have a majority that are actually residents of the city. Okay? So, city manager, do you want to identify who we have up for the planning commission at this point?
There was just one letter of interest in the packet from Paul Dreyer.
Mm-hmm.
Could we get that?
I don't have anything on
Do you have that?
And then,
Do you want to just give us a little update on
Sure.
Mr. Drew?
so Paul had submitted a letter of interest on Thursday or Friday last week. I thought it was in the packet. And he had come a couple weeks ago and said that a letter would be coming, and we just received it at the end of last week.
I think Rick had his hand up.
Council member Alfred Chase?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did not see a letter in the packet from Mr. Dreyer. Did I? It may have been an oversight. So my understanding is that we asked the Planning Commission to review new candidates and come back with a recommendation before we would take any action. And I think they were going to do that with Jay Walsh, if I remember correctly. I don't believe we've taken action yet on Jay's appointment, but I could be wrong. Did we act on that at the last meeting?
Yes, Jay is a member. That's
Okay, so
already
this-
done.
So
This is
a
an
new
addition.
request that
Correct.
would, that if we follow the process we've just followed with the DRB, the reason I think we didn't do it, as I recall now, was because, with Jay, was because he had been interviewed a year ago by the Planning Commission. So I'm not comfortable taking action on adding Paul Dreyer tonight without an indication of how the Planning Commission is gonna respond to that.
Okay,
I had the same thoughts. The process is to be letter of interest interviewed and then some form of recommendation from the planning commission. So I prefer to wait until that process is done.
council member?
I could go either way, but my thought has been to give the commission respect to interview, but I think he was, who's John Manette's not here. Who's next in line on the planning commission? Who's the vice chair?
Jonathan is going to get us, the city manager will get us the information.
So John Lynette was 24 and vacant was 24.
So it goes to vacant,
Yeah.
which is
I was curious if Mr. Dreyer was interviewed in the past. Mr. Chenette, I forget how long he's been here.
Mr. Schnett, do you know that? And if you wouldn't mind, could you tell us? Thank you.
Sure. Dennis Chanette, this time I'm a member of the Planning Commission. We did not get a letter of intent from Mr. Dreyer, and policy has been that we get a letter of intent, we do an interview, we suggest that person before the council, and then you make the approval or not.
So the big question, yeah, we've got that.
Okay.
My big question is, what the council member would like to know, was Mr. Dreyer ever interviewed before?
No,
Okay, so you've never had him come before? That was the big question. Okay, thank you for that.
you're welcome.
So, I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, council member, that we would like to have the letter of interest be forwarded to Mr.
I
Shinet
forwarded
or,
it to Frank, and that's.
Oh, Frank.
So I didn't put it in
Okay.
the packet, it was,
That's okay.
it was sent to Frank
Okay.
instead.
so then can we can trust that when Mr. Cheney comes back from vacation, you will speak with him and get that, go forward with your interview process and come back to us. All good? So, can I just do this a little bit formally? Okay, can I have a motion to have the candidate be interviewed by the planning commission and the planning commission to come back to us with a recommendation?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say
Aye.
nay. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Schmidt, you'll handle that. Okay. Next item is our constable appointment with an anticipated vote. I have, I would like to make a motion to appoint Council Member Clark Curtis to be the constable.
My only question is,
Sure, yes, you
that
can.
wasn't voted upon item on the ballot. Was there nobody who got,
Correct, we didn't have, there were a lot of people who wanted it, but nobody
did anybody
hit the
run
numbers.
officially?
Hit the numbers, and then when I asked the treasurer if anybody hit the numbers for us to have, you know, we didn't make it, and we discussed it at the last appointments and said we would come back and visit it now.
Remember all the strange names written in? We can't say them, but, yeah.
So anyway, so can I have a motion to appoint Councilmember Curtis to be the constable?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Comments?
What exactly will the
I just want to make sure that nobody out there has any comments. Ms. Bierling?
Jennifer Yearling, resident Newport. I don't have a comment, I have a question. I don't understand what you mean by there were people that were interested but nobody hit the numbers. Could you explain that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So during election day, there were write-ins for constable. So when there were write-ins, I take that as people who were interested in legitimate people, not Mickey Mouse, no, Donald Duck. Okay, legitimate residents who wanted it. And that's why the last appointments, we did not just appoint. When I said didn't hit the numbers, there's a certain percentage that you have to get to actually get that constable election if you were a write-in, and nobody hit those numbers. So that's why we're back at this table here right now.
And also no one ran for grand jury.
Grand jury, right.
Or constable.
Right, and we already handled the grand jury. So thank you for that question. So I have a motion and a second. Yes. All
What exactly does a constable do?
go for it, constable.
It's in the charter, Kevin.
Amazingly enough, I've got the charter right here.
So they
So-
do investigations, and they work with the police, they do investigations. and-
No, they don't.
Well, they don't work with the police, they work empowered by certain enforcement. Oh, you have it,
I have it.
okay, so then you
So
know
I'm
the
saying
answer.
that- Well, it says they'll have the same duties and liabilities as prescribed by law for constables, except for the collection of taxes. Then the city constable shall be collector of taxes. That's 2 sentences later. I highlighted it there.
So there are two different types of taxes. It's not the delinquent tax collector, which we have already appointed as somebody.
Okay, so what does this mean that the city constable shall be collector of taxes?
So according to the interpretation and that I received, if there is an issue and somebody needs to go out and knock on the door to collect the taxes, that is the constable who does that. I mean, we're not going to send the treasurer out to knock on
No,
the door.
treasurer's not going.
Right. And, go ahead, treasurer.
But if there's a problem, if you have somebody else to get people to pay their taxes, it means, you know, either overdue or delinquent.
Mm-hmm.
But we already have a delinquent tax collector.
Correct, but that's not a physical going out and getting more information if somebody is missing or moved or whatever. So the constable actually does that investigation. Bottom line is we are, the constable will literally sit down and speak to our attorneys and go through the empowerments and charges and make sure he understands exactly what he's empowered to do and the clarifications.
And I need to be bonded and sworn in,
That's correct.
whoever it is. What are you signing me up for?
So, I guess my other question is this another soon-to-be antiquated position?
No, and so we have a hit list of coal, layer, and
With shingles and
so, right, the shingles, right, the glue man, those are a list of antiquated, but the constable is actually on the ballot at election time, and it, you know, just people did want it, and as I said, just not enough to hit the write-in mark. So,
I suppose, I mean, everybody who's delinquent gets a notice from the manager's office. So I suppose the constable, if they
Within.
get the notice and don't pay it, the council will go out and
correct.
collect the money, I guess. That would probably be the duty.
So anyway, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Okay,
Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Congratulations, Constable
Yes, I'll
Curtis.
let you know how it goes.
Madam Mayor, may I have a roll call?
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Councilmember.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Curtis?
nay, because going out to a house by yourself to collect money or to do any other investigation work requires training. And I'm afraid that if this is undertaken, he may put himself in jeopardy.
If it happens, Kevin, I'll bring you with me.
No, I don't want it.
What's that?
That's okay. The council member and will have, if appropriate training's required, will have the appropriate training. And we will, this is not going to be just like a cold call, go out and be the constable, just like anybody who, if it's on an election ballot, could be voted in. And so you can't require certain things of that person, but we will look into this. Yes.
And did you say that Mr. Curtis needs to have a bond? What is the bond? Can that be the same bond as his city council bond?
So we will come back with the amount of bond to be decided and look at that and see how much the bond needs to be for. And we'll bring that back at the next meeting to make that determination.
And to determine if he can use right off the piggyback on his council bond, or?
Yeah, we'll check all of that and see what's going on with that. So, next, speaking of bonds, the next item is our city clerk treasurer bond amount, if any, to an anticipated vote. So, the charter says that our treasurer can be bonded if we council so decides, and the treasurer's also covered under our insurance. So it's up to the council if they want the treasurer to be bonded. Our treasurer has graciously gone out, and I thank you for that, treasurer, and applied for a bond to make sure he was cleared for a bond. And so now it's a matter of do we want to say yes, we'd like the treasurer also to be bonded, and if so, at what amount? So the council members are $100,000 each. Our city manager and our department head for DPW are at $500,000. And our treasurer has applied and has been approved for $500,000. However, it is up to the council to decide if you want it to be $500,000 or less or more, which I doubt you want to go. So, discussion?
I'm fine with 500,000.
Council member?
Without reading the charter, he's insured,
Yes.
what is, so is it needed?
It's a choice. It's complementary to the insurance. It's a different type of coverage, so it does, the insurance is a little bit distinct for the treasurer versus any other elected officials. But there's also, deductibles, and this would help with that. And it should be noted that this isn't a retroactive bond, okay? This is like the day you get it going forward.
So I would be fine with 500,000.
Council member? So with 500. Council member Upper Chase, did you?
I support 500.
500. Treasurer, you still good with that? Okay, so can I please have a motion to approve the clerk treasurer's bond at $500,000?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say.
Aye.
This is gonna be all night.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. So thank you. So Treasurer Johnson, I will hit yes tomorrow on the magic button from the bond people.
What is the purpose of the bond and who's gonna pay for that?
Oh, the Newport Daily Express will be paying for it. You know I had to do that. The city will be paying for it, okay? And it's $750.
And what is its purpose?
It's to cover for fraud or misappropriation, and there's a whole hit list of, and the treasurer's promised not to do that, so we should be good. The next item on the agenda is our records retention policy with an anticipated vote. And to that, I would like to recognize our attorney, Mariah Smith. Thank you for being so patient. And you heard that paper, right? You only get to charge us for 15 minutes. No, just kidding. I can't hear you.
You're muted, Brian.
I don't know if you heard my jokes when I was there. Mariah, we can't hear you. Can we get him to speak to us?
How about now? Yeah, no, I was billing other clients during that time. When my time was going to come. So we spoke last time, and from that meeting, I tried to address some of the concerns I heard by and I hope you all have the correct version in front of you. It should, the charts, the relevant charts that start on page 4. On page 4, it should start type of records, correspondence, routine. Okay. And like I said, so how this works is the Secretary of State's policy regarding record retention schedules sets the limit for any given record that the town or the city may produce or create or have come into its possession through city business. And that limit, everybody has to meet those requirements. The city council is free to create more onerous retention schedules or require more time. And it can direct who of its personnel are going to be responsible for maintaining certain records. So is everybody an understanding of how the policy works, and are there any specific questions that I should address?
Councilmember? No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I did change it to have the city manager be in charge of the review, the annual review. The initial one will need to take place not in March, but the rest of the time it will take place in March. And I think after this initial review that the city manager is going to be taking up with staff, there'll probably be some different suggestions that the city manager might come to you for regarding this policy, regarding certain records, and can report back. So this policy can change and be amended by the city council if they decide, oh, we want to retain these records for longer, or we've come across situations where we wish we had these records even though we got rid of them pursuant to the Secretary of State schedule, we want to hold them longer. So, as long as the city decides to make the retention period longer than that of the state, it's free to do so at its discretion.
I noticed in there, Royer, that the intention of all the payroll records are now moved to the city manager's office. They've always been in the clerk's office. So I don't know what the reason for that is, but.
Oh, yeah, no, and if there are things, I was not intimate with what the current practices are. If there's anything in here that the clerk's office would have that I think the city council should put under the clerk's responsibility to maintain. I didn't apply any of the land records or any of the Secretary of State does have some clerk policies, but I didn't include those because you're your own office. But yeah, if the city council or the city manager and the clerk want to communicate about who's should be responsible for maintaining specific records, that can change and be changed for this policy to reflect that. What specific records are you thinking of there, Jim?
Well, the payroll record, I think it's under the manager's jurisdiction or to keep those. I was just wondering, you've always kept the payroll records downstairs in the vault. That's the only one that can come to my mind off the top of my head.
Yeah, sorry, so yeah, it's just hard for me to hear through the, what's the specific one?
The payroll records.
Oh, payroll records.
We've always kept them downstairs in the vault, but according to that retention policy, it's the city manager's responsibility to maintain them.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'll jump in after.
If the council wants, this is currently in a draft form, if the council wants to amend what's here so that it's that payroll records are kept in the vault, it can do so right now and pass it
And so here's my question, Counselor. They would physically be in the vault. That doesn't mean they wouldn't be under the custody of the city manager, correct? I mean, just because they're located in the vault, this is more for the control of destruction of the records, who has them, et cetera. So, and what pertains to the records, the actual physical location, if they are in the vault, doesn't take that custody away from the city manager, does it?
Right, so if the city manager may still be responsible for them,
Exactly.
but the city council decides that we want to keep these records in the vault, that's completely fine.
That's the only one I'm seeing.
Right. So I would, so my suggestion is that we continue with the vote for this as is, and then we can go through the details. That's what I mean, yeah. When I say we, I don't mean, I just mean, we can discuss it, you could bring, if you want to change something, just let us know. I just wanted to clarify that just because something is in a bank vault doesn't mean it's not under the custody and control of the city manager, if that's what we are approving.
Right, we, the city can use the vault to store whatever it thinks should be kept in the vault. Those payroll records probably are very important.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, Briar, that we store the payroll records. I mean, the city manager can come down and look at payroll records anytime he wants, but our policy is that stuff can't leave the vault. We'd have to come down and look at the stuff there. I mean, that's always been the policy.
So can we make that,
But I'm not seeing that this changes that policy. I'm
well,
not.
just the location says that it would be human resource personnel file instead of the vaults.
Right, so when
can
I'm,
we make a soft amendment saying that?
yeah, we had just
Payrolls
changed
and
that to vault. Yeah. Right, we said this, we're gonna do the amendment right now, okay, to make it be the city clerk's fault. Are you good with that?
Minutes are
So Counselor, we're going to, the president of the council is going to offer a soft amendment to change that to just say it would be in the city clerk's vault.
Yep.
You good with that? Can I have that?
I move to approve, where are we?
Where
Approve the
are we?
record retention policy with the changes of payroll records being in the vaults.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, I'm giving you that one, Councilmember. Okay, any comments? Further discussion?
You got one up there.
Oh, yes,
Just a quick
Are
question.
you- could you
Sorry, yes.
come on up,
Stacy
speak.
Terry, Newport resident, assistant clerk treasurer. We currently have a retention policy, and I just wanted to know, does this encompass that? Is it an addendum to that? Does it supersede? Because the one I saw, there were a lot of them that weren't on there, like my 941s, my quarterly reports, all of that stuff. We had changed those, to keep those longer than the state had suggested, because it says 1 year after your audit, but we decided to keep them for 7 years because audits are 7 years long. So I was just wanting to know how this affects that policy.
Sure. And I'm gonna let our counselor jump in. It's my understanding this is the policy now, but Counselor, can you please respond?
Yeah, is it all right if I just get the question?
Sure, so there are specific former policies that were in place, retention policies, and so some of the documents that say pertain to audits or tax documents, that the current policy extended past what the Secretary of State said. And so the question is, will this supersede those policies, or will the policies that are in place now be combined with this, or will, so how does this policy affect the policies in place now?
Insofar as there are policies in place now, insofar as this policy, if passed by the council, conflicts with those other policies, this policy would control. If those policies touch on records that aren't covered by this policy, then those policies would still be effective, unless the council wants to make their motion to remove all prior policies. But
So, so we have our motion here. I think we leave the motion. I think further discussion, sit down with our city manager and go through A, B, C, or D of whatever is there, and then we could always make amendments. Okay, so, because you're more familiar with the specific ones, so if you would mind doing that, and then we can do whatever amendments, just like we're doing for the treasurer right now.
I think for records that are in our policy and not in this new one, the policy that we have in effect now, it goes back to that because the records, they're not in the new policy, right? Am I correct on that? So the two work together, basically.
They're
yeah,
complementary.
the two would work together. They'll work together as much as they can, but if they can't, this one would control. Except,
I don't see.
the treasurer can make policies for concerning his own office. But
Right. But if you want to just take the time and go through them just for whatever, to clarify on your own, and if there's an issue, then we'll fix it. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the TA60 Annual Financial Plan with an anticipated vote. I'm going to
So
move.
this one was just handed out to you at the start of the meeting. So, Madam Mayor, I can speak to this if you would like.
Please do.
Okay. So I met with Tom last week on the next two items, both the TA60 and the road and bridge standards. We went up to the VTrans district office and met with Eric up there. If you're not familiar with the TA60 or the road and bridge standards, these are annual forms that come before the legislative body. The TA60 is your annual financial plan, which you basically have to prove in kind of that second signature page that we're contributing a certain amount of money to our highway based on the money that the state gives us for our class 1, 2, and 3 road miles. And you can see there's an estimated amount of what we receive from VTrans for that. The other piece that a TA60 does is in the event that we have an emergency and we apply for a VTrans emergency grant, they take a certain percentage of our non-winter maintenance. And once we hit a certain threshold, then we're eligible for a VTrans emergency grant. So again, this is a pretty standard document. It shows kind of the breakdown of roads, different projects, and how we kind of separate that between revenue and expenses. I don't know if there's any questions on this one for the TA60.
Any questions?
All set.
You're all set?
Good.
You're good? So may I have a motion to approve the TA60 Annual Financial Plan?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any comment
Can I just talk after the meeting about that?
about this?
Yep.
Come on up and identify yourself and,
I'd like to just talk after the meeting so that we keep everything
oh,
about the highways.
you can talk to whoever you want after the meeting, but right now, just about if it's an agenda item, you need to come up. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Madam Mayor, if I might, I'm just going to ask to be an abstention on that vote because I haven't had the ability to see that document.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
Right, here.
Yes. Yeah, for all the council members,
All of us?
except one.
We all got
This is what we just voted on the annual.
Kim Johnson on our text, Stacy. On X.
See that?
Took me 3 days. After the meeting, you want? Huh? You know what kind of mess I made?
I pulled one up so you could see it. Thank you.
Let's go back to you or Jim?
Good? Okay, next item on the agenda is the Road and Bridge Standards Certification, anticipated vote.
So this is the Road and Bridge Standards certification. So the Vermont Agency of Transportation through the Department of Environmental Conservation implemented new road and bridge standards in 2019. We did sign on to those, and a copy of those were included in your packet. This is that one kind of check mark for the ERAF, which is Emergency Relief and Assistance Funding. And basically, we just have to sign on saying that we are compliant with the road and bridge standards that we approved, and that we're doing our best to meet those standards. The ERAF is kind of 4 pieces that we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. We have our local emergency management plan. We have a hazard mitigation plan, and we've adopted the road and bridge standards. And when we do that, if we get a federal declaration, we split that cost share with the state. So this is something that, it's an annual thing, but it's very important in the event that we do get a federal declaration.
Questions on this?
How's that?
I'm good.
Question? Good? Okay. May I please have a motion to approve the Road and Bridge Standards Certification?
So moved.
Two motions.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rick Ufford Chase. Can I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm curious, why have these never come before?
Can you-
the I'm sorry, Pam Lyles, Newport. Why have these never come before the council before? We've never heard of them. And I don't think you guys have been signing off on them before.
I believe we've signed up
So
on.
we did sign off on one since the new council has
Right,
been
but
on
previously, I'm
previously.
talking-
I don't know. So this is the process, and this is the process that's going to be done going forward. Okay, so historically, it is what it is right now, but right now, this is the way it goes. Okay, thank you for your question.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt. We do this every year. Every year we go to the spring meeting with District 9. We go over the same form. So it's voted every year.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is the Midway contract for Gardner Park Summer Carnival. Anticipated, what do they do?
This sign right.
Oh, anticipated vote. This is the certification that Mr. Bernier just spoke about. Okay, so the Midway contract was on the prior agenda and we brought it back. We did some changes to it, because if you remember at the time, we had negotiated changes to it. and we hadn't had the final updated contract brought back. And council member, Rashawn, not Rashawn, I'm sorry, forgive me, Charbonneau, also had brought up some, questions, and we went back and looked, we needed to look at there, and now we're ready to vote on it. So, city manager, you
Sure.
wanna bring us up to speed?
So the biggest change was, at the beginning, it said the recreation department and the grandstand committee. We have just changed that to the city of Newport. Now that we've taken over the grandstand grants and we're gonna be managing that project, we just thought it should go to the city of Newport as a whole, and then we can decide, again, where that revenue stream is gonna go. The other question that was asked about the food vendors, we are not allowed to have food vendors on the site. It is exclusive to Miller Amusements. Mike Brown and I were discussing perhaps if there is interest of other food vendors, maybe we can have them set up in the farmer's market area or another location that's close by that may be complementary, but would like to explore that further with council and Mike.
Do we know the type of food that's going to be offered by Miller, or it's
Yes.
not just popcorn, right? It's
One fried dough stand, one cotton candy stand,
chicken.
one French fry, one hamburger hot dog sausage, one ice cream, and one corn dog lemonade stand, again exclusively at this event.
So it's mixed, it's not
It is.
just all carbs, eh? Okay, so it's totally mixed.
But, and I thought it was interesting though, someone brought up of can we have local vendors
Correct.
participate, and the answer is no, not in that designated area, but, you know,
But
I'd be
anywhere surrounding.
willing to explore
And,
that with.
and you will do that with, the rec director,
Yeah,
and then you'll get back to us and
Absolutely.
see.
I think we could talk to the farmers market folks and see what their schedule and, you know, allow us to do that, but we'd be open to have local vendors in the proximity as well.
Okay. We're doing the motion already? So, any other discussion, or can I go for the motion?
I had mentioned that we did pass November 18th, 2019, the event policy.
So we do have a special event permit that Jim was gonna pass out at the end of the meeting for this event.
Yeah, I have it here.
Right.
I got it, Mike gave it to me today if you want to approve that. It's all been through all the departments and been signed off on each department, it's ready to go.
And it's been paid
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and that's what I had said, I know you brought that up, and I wanted to make sure we researched that.
Okay, we could approve it now.
We can approve it now.
So I'll do
Not
two
gonna be here till
motions.
June.
Well, yeah, that's right. Approving-
Correct, what I'm saying, we'll do it in two motions, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Is that all right if we do this two motions? Okay, so can I have a motion, please, to approve the Midway contract for Gardner Park Summer Carnival?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comment? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. And now going to the related event. Can
I have
you?
a question, actually. When is the carnival?
Oh.
Oh.
Is there, I'm like, is there signage? Or like
June
something?
6th through June 9th.
Okay, well, thank you.
So, Mr. Treasurer, would you please,
Yeah, so the event, Mike gave me the event
Do you have one for when?
permit today. It's been signed off by all the department heads, you don't have a problem with it. I have the fee, and so all it needs is approval, and I can issue the permit for them.
okay, so what, you want a motion that says?
Need a motion to approve the special event permit for the Midway Carnival.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Who's Tony Hopkins? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Northern Border Regional Commission grant updated authorized official anticipated vote. So the mayor was the authorized official to sign off on the Northern Border Regional Commission grant. And I am going to ask for a motion to allow us to please update the authorized official of the Northern Border Regional Commission grant to our city manager so that the city manager can become the authorized official on this grant. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, any comments?
Jennifer Bierling, resident, Newport, Vermont. I just had a question. Back, I think it was, I'm doing this from recollection, October 16th, when you folks were doing your updated city manager job description, contracts were a real issue, and I believe Mr. Vashon asked Attorney Mahusky if it was possible for the council to assign the ability to sign contracts, and Ms. Mahusky responded that it would not be appropriate to do that pursuant to the charter. So does this grant paperwork include contracts? Because according to the answer given to Mr. Vashon, it's not going to be possible pursuant to the charter for our city manager to sign contracts.
Thank you for your comment. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is granted, carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public records request policy discussion. This is a discussion the city manager and I have been discussing the best way to be able to attend to public records requests. So city manager, would you please run with this one?
So Mayor and I talked briefly about this, and I had mentioned that just before I had left Cambridge, we had implemented this sort of policy as well, to kind of just lay the framework of when a public records request comes in, who is the custodian of that record, and what the process is for receiving it. In the event that the custodian is not available, who takes on that task. In the event that it's appealed, where does that go? So this, I took kind of from Cambridge, tailored it to the city of Newport. It is the first draft, but basically it outlines kind of the purpose and authority. So it references the Vermont Public Records Act, which again we need to follow. Records for requests. So anything that is to be inspected or copying public records, it pertains to this. Again, a little bit different than Jim's, with deeds and land records and that such. But really so the city manager is going to be the custodian of the record. In the event that I'm not available, that would fall back to the comptroller, program manager. In the event that it's appealed, it would be appealed to the mayor. If the mayor's not available, to the council president. And that's kind of what we had put in the first draft. Certainly open to changes, comments, concerns, questions. Again, this was kind of just that first draft of what we think the process and procedure should be for these types of requests.
Right, so this was just the opening discussion, take this, digest it, and then we'll get you the updated policy for after legal review, et cetera. But right now, we just wanted you to know where we're going. And then we can put this on the agenda for a vote on the next plan. Agree with that? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the cemetery trust account discussion. The cemetery trust account, we have been, as you know, we've been taking a deep dive into all of the accounts and making sure that we, if anything needs additional policies, we could look at that, but we had some questions by a council member, and I am going to start with some of those questions to see if we can get them addressed. And one of the questions was, doesn't Public Works weed whack and mow the cemetery? So can somebody answer that from? Okay, thank you.
Either I or Dennis or Tom can answer.
Okay, thank you for that.
Dennis Chanel, Cemetery Commission. All the lawn mowing, landscaping is done by Peak View Landscaping. We pay them 3 installments of $2,000 a year, $6,000 total. There is no trash removal. Really, we have only one barrel over there that's in terrible disrepair. I asked that it be removed a few years ago. It's not used at all. The only problem is it's infested with bees, hornets in particular. Nobody dares to go near it without a complete protective suit on. Therefore, nobody from the city's been able to take care of it. And that's where we stand as far as landscaping and maintenance goes.
So, isn't there somebody that we could get appropriately attired who's capable of removing that for you all?
Probably could.
And have you looked into that to see what that might cost?
I probably could.
Okay, would you do that?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, better to, nobody gets stung here, okay. Then are you going to continue to answer the questions, or do you want to hang out, or you?
I'll wait.
Okay, so the next question was, Public Works hires young people every year to cut grass at roadsides, the beach, Gardner Park. Apparently there's been payments in 2024 to a business that is the lawn care at the cemetery. So the key question is, who authorizes the city clerk to pay this? Is there a contract, and who signed the contract? Let's start with those questions. Please.
I have the contract. They come before me. I initial it, date it, and then they go down to see Mr. Johnson at the city clerk's office, where the city clerk's office would then issue a check for that installment.
Okay, so just, because I want to make sure council members don't have any further questions. So the authorization goes through you, you get the contract. Do you negotiate the contract? Are you the person, or it's a standard contract, they just submit it and you sign off on the contract?
And it hasn't gone up at all in the past few years.
Okay.
And we have had a landscaping company maintain the lawn ever since I got on, even before I got on.
Any question? On that? No. Any questions on that? I just want to.
No.
I have it. Okay.
I just wanted to know, sorry,
It's okay.
Ann Chiarello, I'm a resident of Newport. I just wanted to know, when was the last time it went out for a competitive bid? $6,000, I have no idea, I know my own lawn. But has gone out for a competitive bid recently?
No.
Do you have any idea what
Could
other
you- everyone speak
people
from me.
do you have any idea what other people might charge?
Okay, so the key is we want to know if in fact there is going to be any further bids or possibly look into competitive bids or why stay with that person. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it's been there for a very long time with no increases over the years. So and I don't want to say this, but I'm getting that you're comfortable with that level and you think if it went out to bid that the bids might be much higher, and then how would that affect the person you're bidding against right now?
Well, the succession of the lawn mowing and landscaping companies started with Karen, and probably before them there was somebody else. But usually what they've done is they've referred another business to take over when they got done. So when Karen got done, Peakview took over at the request of Karen, but it's always been that way. We've never gone out to bid, and they've always maintained pretty much the same level of pay.
Okay, so the thought process is, but we are going through bidding policies as well, so we can revisit that as well. Okay, thank you. Is there insurance? No insurance. And if any council members have further questions on these, as I ask these questions that were given to me.
What was it, no insurance?
No insurance.
Why not?
Why not?
Why?
Why not?
It's a business, I have to have $2 million in liability just to go to work.
And I guess the city can go ahead and get insurance.
I just want to know, there's no insurance and there's never been any insurance applied for, and so we don't know why not. We just know that this is what's been happening. So we can look into that as well. Okay. Didn't go out of bed. Okay, any further questions on this area right now? Just looking at, these were just basic questions that had come. Now you also have in your packets the amounts of money through the account. Were there any questions on that?
I understand it better now.
It makes more sense. Any other questions though? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Councilmember Alfred Chase, do you have any questions? It's getting so
No,
dark
thank you.
here. It's gonna like melt away into Costa Rica. Okay, next item on the agenda is the prison water billing discussion. So, following Councilmember Curtis's valid questions and concerns at our last special meeting, and I appreciate all of that. We are continuing to take deep dives and look at issues. We know we had to get a line of credit for $1.7 million. We're looking at reasons that led up to it. We're also looking at what may be needed, and we're going to be looking, at least the city manager and I are going to be looking at potential county adjustments and so on after we look through all these numbers. The question, I'm going to throw this over right now to let the city manager begin the discussion on this, and then we can shift it over to the treasurer if he has any input or any questions from the council come up.
Sure. So I started this conversation a couple weeks ago with Jim, and we had looked at the water billing on the meter side and kind of what those rates were. We came up with an estimate of roughly 130,000 or so, but it was an estimate. And so I spoke with Tom today, and Tom and I chatted about we can't bill for an estimate. And we really need to figure out what's going on with the meter, if there is something wrong with the meter, and then getting accurate billing to be able to send them an invoice. So we'd like to set up a meeting with the prison, to be able to kind of hammer down on accurate numbers to then get them an invoice to be able to pay. That was kind of my conversation with both Tom and Jim today. Again, you know, Jim and I kind of came up with a high and low number, and that 130 was in the middle, but it was based on an estimate, and we just wanted concrete numbers to be able to bill them.
So to that, the former council president and I have already spoken with the prison, and they are aware that the invoice they're getting is going to be an estimate because they're aware of this situation. And I think that we told them we were getting them this estimated invoice, and it's imperative that we do, because the longer it goes, the less negotiating power we're going to have. And so they have been waiting on this, having those meetings. I would respect that you wouldn't have those meetings right now with who you said, because we've already started the discussions with them, and it's better if you and I go and continue those discussions of negotiations with them. And but it's important that estimated invoice gets out. They know the situation. And so they're a state organization, of course, right? They're under the state, and they have to budget, and they have to at least to start to discuss it, and they've been waiting. So I'd ask that you get that out. Any further discussion on that?
Can someone explain what, I'm
Sure.
not pointing the finger at anyone, I don't know what happened, except for maybe a broken water meter. Can someone just explain how we got here? Why they owe us this money?
So if you recall, going back about 8 months ago, I think, or less, close to that, we identified that there was a discrepancy in the invoicing going out. So let's say they were billed $20,000, and then the latest invoice was, say, $2,000, and that was going on for a long period of time. And that led to the fact that there was most probably a broken water meter, and that was verified by the foreman, I believe, at the time, going back, who I discussed it with. And then we contacted the prison and told them we've identified this discrepancy, and the treasurer went back and did a deep dive and came up with his estimates of, which you have a printout of the amount. I think it was 130 plus, close to $130,000. And so it was a billing, just being billed for whatever their invoice was, versus actually going in and saying, oh, there's a discrepancy here, and starting the communications at that point. So it accumulated over, I think it was over a year, about a year or so, a very long time. And so that's why we wanted to stop the bleeding. And we need to stop the bleeding. And so we want to go in there, and that's pretty much what the history is.
So the note on my ledger says new meter in November 2016. What happened? I guess I just don't know what happened.
So it's my understanding from discussions I had, and these could be corrected, was that there was also an updated meter put in after the 2016 meter from, Mr. Bernier wasn't here that day, and I may have been, oh yes, okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, the foreman went in and put in a new head into the 6-inch meter, thinking that would fix the issue, but the latest billing was still low. So going forward, the bills are still going to be low, because we're billing on the actual read we're getting from the meter. So, I mean, I don't know what you want to do, but I don't know if maybe somebody should.
How much is the new meter?
About $10,000.
Okay, so just because you're new here, Okay, you have to be recognized to speak, and you speak through me, so please
But
go
yeah,
ahead.
anyway, so the new head, that was in 2016, the foreman put in the new headworks for the 6-inch meter.
Okay, so thank you for that, so we can discuss the additional issue, but right now we need to get that invoice out, and then we can start the discussions and see what's going on.
No, I'll let you handle it.
Council member?
Just there's obviously need for that meter or something to be changed out, so that needs to be within the plan as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, that's like a top priority to have that meter fixed. Council member Alfred Chase? I can't see, it's getting so dark up there.
Sorry, I'm here, I have nothing to add.
It's okay. Treasurer, I'm just having fun with this.
Yeah. Stacy's right, they went in and changed the headworks, but the reading hasn't changed, so we don't know if the meter needs to be pulled and checked. We had to check what, I mean, either the meter was wrong when it was high, or it's wrong now when it's low.
Right.
I mean, consistently, the billing was $25,000 or $30,000 a quarter, and now it's down to 7 or 8. Something isn't right. We
Yeah.
don't know the headworks have been changed, or something wrong.
Okay, so we will.
Well, that's what we think. I mean, Tom knows more about it.
Right, and we'll look into that. So, wait, 1 second. So this gentleman, you want to identify yourself, and it's up to you. You were first.
Who, me?
Yeah. Do you have
Oh.
anything you want to say? Identify.
How much is
who
the
you
new
are.
meter?
Okay. Yes.
Well, I went over the billing, the information that's been given to me with respect to, and all of us, with respect to the billing. And in 2017, the first 4 billings, the average amount is about $160,000 that water and sewage billed to the prison. That's that first year, 2017 to 2018. The next year, if you do the calculations, it goes down to $139 for the 4 quarters that is billed. The next year, it goes down to $113 for the 4 quarters that's billed, and all along, it's been about $40,000 down to $35,000 for those first 2 or 3 years, and then it goes down in February of 2019 to $18,000. And what I really and then it goes down if you look to in the 20s, and then it goes down to $8,000 by 2022, and then it goes down starting in February of 23 to 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 3,000. Now, there's no way that they could be paying $160,000 in 2017 and be paying $10,000 for all their water for 4 quarters in 2023. Something is seriously wrong, and you could pick it out as early as that first date, which is when it drops to 18,000, and that first date is February 6th of 2019. And you have, the strange thing is, this is under another administration, and I'm so grateful that this administration has found it. But you have, at that point in February of 2019, a supervisor of water and sewage. When somebody goes out and reads all those meters, including the water meter for the prison, it brings back the data, or she or he brings back the data. And the supervisor of that unit is Tom. And I do not understand why in 2019 we don't begin to know that there's a problem with the water meters, because the billing keeps happening. So you have that supervisor, and he gets 66% of his salary from water and sewage. And are you telling me that nobody's looking at that in his unit? And then Rebecca Farian, well, she earns 45% from water and sewage. She's now the comptroller. She had another role, but she also was 15% in Tom's unit. And you mean to tell me with that distribution of her salary, she doesn't look at it? And then the city manager at the time claimed she did 60% of her time in water and sewage, and she's not looking at it? And then there's a separate way that these bills go, because the bills are actually paid to Jim's unit after they put out the bills. And can you believe that they were billing $40,000 a quarter, and when it drops to 18, and then it drops down to 8, and when it drops down to 2, nobody's saying, coming to the council and saying, we've got a problem here, that meter needs to be changed, something's wrong somewhere. I am just totally shocked, and it takes a new mayor who's earning a grand total of $3,000 to go through these materials a couple of months ago and find this error. You know, maybe we need more city managers, maybe we need more mayors, and, you know, what are our people doing? I mean, I hear you want to correct for the future, but one of the corrections has got to be safeguards that when this stuff starts happening, somebody says, you know, when my meter drops from paying $200, this is the equivalent, I've been paying water and sewage $200 a quarter or so, and it would be dropping it down to 5% of that, which would be about $10. You should notice, not you, but some people in the city that are in control at various points should notice that my bill is now 10. I'd like it. I'm sure the prison loved it. Please put in safeguards to prevent this in the future. It's not your fault. You found it, but this is atrocious.
Thank you for your comment. So, as you know, we are working on putting in safeguards and policies and separation of duties, and we are going through, as right now, also testing the allocations of salaries and where they all go. And this was a stunning find, and we are now working to make sure that it gets corrected and that we get as much hopefully back as we possibly can. And that's why when I had that discussion with the prison with former President Wilson, we had a commitment, and that's why I want to stick to that commitment, and then I'll work with the city manager and go further into detail what's going on, and we'll bring the president up to speed, and then we'll bring it all back to the council. So there's a lot here, and we are looking at it, and the treasurer is helping us with those numbers. So, yes. Is that a headache, or is
No. We have a hand raised next to it. I believe it's Jennifer Hopkins on the question.
Miss Hopkins, is that you behind Tony Hopkins?
Yes, that is me.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll come on the screen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I apologize, I had to change computers.
It's
so,
okay. It's okay.
I am a resident of Newport. Presently, I'm out of state. I served a number of years on the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee. And one of the things I'd like to point out is that the previous speaker berated numbers of members of the staff of the city about not personally tracking one particular account. I don't think that our city personnel really should be spending their time going through every individual water and sewer billing. Perhaps the overall billing, find out where it is at some point. But I think it's inappropriate for the berating of the city employees that I've just heard. I just think, you know, it's great we found the problem. You know, hopefully it will be successfully cured and cured for the future. But I think we need to stop berating our employees. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Now I know something.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Just to let everybody know, that this has not been going on just for the last 9 months, and when in the treasurer's office, when Stacy realized what was happening, the bills were a lot less, the appropriate people were notified. And that's our job, to notify the appropriate people. Where it goes from there is not our responsibility.
And
That's all I got to say about it.
and the treasurer did tell me, in fact, that he did notify the appropriate parties that he needed to go to. And that should have been brought to the council. I was not here. I don't know if it was brought to the council. But regardless, the treasurer did identify, it came to me when I identified it and he showed me. I went and spoke to this person and this person and this person, so we've been working together to do that. Sir, did you want to speak, or you need to just identify yourself?
I'm Ortiz, new to Newport.
Welcome.
What's the model of the meter you need? I'll go look it up. I'll get a plumber, put it in. DUN done.
Thank you. Let's do it.
Jennifer Geerling, resident of Newport, Vermont. I can't speak to the veracity of what I'm about to say, but my understanding, based on conversations that have been had, is that there were attempts to go into the prison to repair the meter that go back quite a ways. And one of the issues is the clearance that's required to do that. I guess you have to basically contort yourself into all kinds of different positions to get the security clearance to get in. And that our former employee, Pedro, I believe was his name, was in line to go in and make those repairs to the meter. And then he left us, and so then it had to start all over again from square one. So to the extent that these, what I'm saying is accurate, I just think that it is something that had been identified and was being worked on, and until everybody knows all of the underlying facts, I just would caution them to not just villainize everyone and attack everyone, because I think it's inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so we have a plan. Yes, Councilman.
Well, we've heard from everyone. Would really appreciate Mr. Bernier's input, because I'm sure he knows more than I do. I mean, what, is it still broken? Is it?
I think I think what's going to happen now is Mr. Bernier was going to speak, but I think a lot of what went on here kind of brought up more questions, and now that the plan is going to be back to the original plan, we're going to deal with the prison, find it out, and then go to the appropriate parties.
Is it still broken?
Apparently it's still broken, but well,
We're getting a reading from it. So
Right.
We're getting a reading from the meter.
but we don't know about the
I don't know how
accuracy
accurate.
of the reading. So the assumption is, like, we shouldn't make assumptions, but clearly it's not the number that it was or we're used to. So I'm gonna say it's not fixed. Okay? And I'd like to bring this back for further discussion at the next council meeting, so we can have some updates to report on this. Okay, next on the agenda is the speeding and signage discussion. And this is a discussion, the beginning of a discussion. I have received very many comments and have from people who are concerned about speeding down certain areas of the city. And people are scared because, some of them are elderly, some of them are walking with, baby carriages. Sometimes there's potholes or whatever, but there are some, people speed, not me. People speed, right? In addition, I've also received communications about signs. So signs that need to be put up or replaced regarding kids at play, use caution for children. Because a lot of times there are trucks there, or, you know, it's normal, it's every day, but people want their signs up. I was able to go back and look at some old emails that were deleted and then reconstructed. So I was able to find that there were some promises made about taking down some of these signs, you know, where children were at play or caution children, with the promise that they would be replaced, and they have not been replaced. So bringing this up because it's a safety issue and it has nothing to do with our chief of police, that's for sure. Okay, I know he's attentive to all of this, but there are issues, and I'm going to sit with the city manager and we'll go through the different areas, and then we'll sit with the chief of police, and we'll sit with the department head, and they can kind of fill us in and figure out how we can get some solutions done and respond to the various parties. But speeding in areas is a problem, and signage is a problem, and I'm sure the experts will have the better solutions than me, but I think a discussion's necessary. Are you good with that? Discussing?
Sure.
Discussing. Do you want to say anything else?
Sure. So I've received 0 complaints about speeding. Pretty approachable guy. I would like to think people can come to see me if they have issues, and I can direct resources to where they need to go. Speeding has been an issue in the 20 years that I've worked here. It's never going to go away, right? So it's my job to make sure that we curb it the best we can with the manpower that we have and the resources that we have. Currently, we have drug houses in the city that are the top priority, and I have directed my patrol staff to sit at those houses and try to get car stops out of there to try to curb some of that problem. My whole point to all this is speeding is never going to go away. If you have an issue with speeding, please reach out to me, let me know, and I will do the best we can. It is getting summer out. I just put an email out last week to my staff saying, hey, warm weather's here, bikes, ATVs, motorcycles, like all that stuff's going to be out. They're going to be flying around. So yes, I'm aware of it, but come see me, like a phone call, an email, whatever, saying, hey, I live over on Sias, and people are flying down through here after school. Boom, we'll go over there, we'll do a targeted patrol right there. I've done several directed patrols throughout the city based on just those complaints that come in from citizens of Newport. So we're here for everybody, right? Like if you have a problem in a certain area, I need to know about it, okay? So I'm the one that can kind of control where those resources are directed to. But I'm telling you right now, like the priority for us is the drug problem that's going on in the community, and that's where I've been directing a lot of the resources. I'm not saying speeding is not an issue. We have a SHARP grant. We have several guys that use about 60 hours a month to go out and do just distracted driving and just speed enforcement. And I told them to stay within the confines of Newport so we can help mitigate some of that. So it is happening. It's never going to be perfect, I can tell you that, because I've been dealing with it for the 20 years that I've been here. But we are fortunate that we do have 24/7 coverage here in Newport City, because I'm telling you, COVID was probably the worst thing for motor vehicle enforcement, because everything just went out the window and police stopped stopping cars because they couldn't have contact with people. So I hear you, we're there. I would say just give me a chance, come see me, talk to me, and let me see if I can help you out.
And I appreciate that, and I think the information that I was getting was actually in applause of what you were doing, and it was just specific areas. You get people who are afraid, or people who have a persistent problem, and one of the problems was the questions were not going your way, they were going somewhere else. And once I brought back those emails, I was able to see where and why they weren't answered. So that's why I want to sit down with everybody and just have a discussion amongst us so we can identify what can be done, what can't be done. Maybe it was fixed, so, or maybe it wasn't. So that's where this came from. But so you know, everybody who brought this to me, their different areas was for your department. No, but it was true. And they don't want to pull you away. So it was kind of good that once they all started to come in, it's not that many, but I'm just saying that when they came in, I thought it's best to do it as one unified discussion so we could sit down with the experts and see how they can be helped.
Travis, and I know I'm speaking to you.
Look at me.
I spoke to Travis maybe 2 years ago. We actually did an NEK-TV show, and then I spoke to him after that about the Bluff Road extension part, where there is no sign that says 25. There used to be, but it's long gone. And we talked about the little side roads where people peel off Bluff on 2 wheels, fly down to the end. Ask Clark, he's seen it. And so have many others. It's not safe. We've asked for the machine that registers speed. We have not had one up there for a really long time.
It's not completely true.
Not up
Okay,
where I
okay.
am. Where I am, which is on the corner opposite Scott's Farm, we have not had one of those machines for a long time, correct? And when Seth DeSanto was still police chief, my neighborhood did a petition. We handed it to him, and he was asked if he would look at speeding, and we suggested ticketing. You know, there's a really novel idea, and his response was, well, people won't like that. That was the point. We hoped they didn't like it, and that included any of us who were speeding. It's not safe. We have no sidewalks. We have kids, dogs, all heading up to the farm. Little kids on bicycles wobbling all over. It's not safe. It's a real concern. And I get that he's overstretched. There's not enough. There's too many other priorities as well. I think just a little focus and a sign would help. A couple of signs.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Just give me 1 second. I think the whole, yes, of course, but I think the whole purpose of this, my bringing it up, was because there are concerns out there, and that's why the professionals are going to sit down and have a discussion about this. And that's the whole purpose, is that this is going to be a city discussion, and you will probably have the better solutions, and the city manager will be involved, and then we can look at it, and it may be something that you identify, okay, that an easy fix, or something that you're going to say it's an impossible fix.
Yeah.
But we just need to know.
Yeah,
go right
just to kind of speak to that a little bit. So I actually put this speed cart, we have a speed cart that we received through a grant. I'm sure everyone's seen it out and about. It's a pain in the butt to move. We usually leave it in a spot for at least 2 or 3 weeks. It's just a pain. And I had talked to a resident down on Bluff Road, and I put it down there next to Allendale. This was last summer. And when I went to pick it up, she went up one side of me, down the other, hated where it was. It was in the way. Everybody coming up off Allendale couldn't see pulling out. And I'm like, okay. I'm sorry, man. I tried. Like, I got complaints that people were speeding down here, so just trying to slow people down, that's all. So it's not completely true. It has been out. It has been on Bluff. And, you know, we definitely do our best to keep everybody happy.
I know, it's not easy,
No,
but
it's
it's definitely an issue, and we'll talk about it, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you said earlier about, and I've had no calls about the children playing signs. And just to let everybody know, I haven't bought a children's playing sign in probably 15 years. The state had set out a thing years ago stating they would prefer that you didn't put them out because it gives kids false security that they can just run across the road. So the ones that are currently still out there have been out there for a number of years. I haven't bought one in years, and I haven't had any complaints on putting up a children's playing sign. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, so I do have, I really would like to bring this to when we all go and discuss everything so that we can sit and I can show you what's been identified, and then some of them may have been resolved. I just got what I've pulled back because we have pulled back some emails, and so we need to, and some of those complaints are still out there, so we just want to address them. And this was to just bring it out and let the people know we are going to pay attention. We think it's serious, and it's not a matter of I told you, you told me, it's a matter of us sitting down and figuring out how the professionals decide this could be addressed best. Okay, so, thank you. Good, good, good. Okay. Next, comments by members of the public. Members of the audience are reminded that members of the press are present and that these proceedings are being recorded for current and future broadcast over the city's cable television channel. Members of the audience are further reminded that Newport City Council members are for the purpose of allowing council members to conduct city business. City council meetings are the only time the city council discusses, deliberates, and decides upon city matters. City council meetings are held in public to promote transparency and accountability in government, but are distinct from public hearings or town meetings, in that they are not meetings of the public. Members of the public shall be afforded a reasonable opportunity to express opinions about matters considered by the city council. To conduct orderly and efficient meetings, I kindly request the public's cooperation and compliance with the published guidelines when participating in the meeting, and I thank you for that.
Oh, sorry, I messed up.
One job. For which one?
21.
Did I miss something? Oh, that's okay. Let's see. So, when I call your name, please identify. Come up to the microphone and identify your name and your affiliation. You will have 2 minutes. You will have 2 minutes. We'll start with that. And you'll get a 30-second warning when your time is up, and the city manager will be the person who says, cease. Who says your 30 seconds are up. Ms. Shirella.
Hi, I just wanted to update people on my complaints about the ledger and the use of the ledger. For years, it seemed to be what the city council was relying on to determine whether or not you were within budget or beyond your budget. And I realized when the mayor mentioned the other day about grants, income coming in from grants, and then expenses that are incurred that is going to be paid by a grant and not being paid by the budget. The money's coming in from the taxpayers. But those expenses are all being put probably in the ledger. And when I came in to see her this morning at a meeting of the mayor, she was kind enough to explain to me that adjustments were going to be made to the ledger so that there would be a match-up that included grants, and that would make it clearer how much a person was actually spending, and how much a department was actually spending of the budget, and how much they were spending with respect to grants. And once those adjustments are made, obviously the council will have a better picture of whether people are within or without the budget. So, you guys are ahead of me. I think I'd come up with something new, and then it turns out you've done it a couple of months before. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, and to that I just wanted to fill the council in that the city manager and I are looking at grants and the appropriateness of where they go in the budgets, and we will do adjustments as necessary and bring that back so you can see where we are more clearly. And so we're looking at the accounting standards, etc., and we're working on that. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ms. Grimm?
Lori Grimm, resident of Newport. Madam Mayor, I'm a little concerned about some of the letters that I've seen in the paper and some of the rhetoric that's going around town. In the Friday, April 12th, 2024 edition of Front Porch Forum, which is actually an online community bulletin board, Jennifer Bjerling wrote a letter entitled Concerns for Newport, in which she takes great pains to once again do everything she can to paint the worst possible picture of Newport's duly elected mayor. She uses phrases like, "I've been forced," in reference to all the steps she's taken to question everything that happens at city council meetings and how the mayor is running the city. From my seat, no one is forcing her, except maybe her own belief that she should, and maybe a small group of disgruntled citizens who have no desire to support this mayor, or even some of the council members. She also seems to feign concern for the citizens of Newport by using her experience as a former practicing lawyer to decide how she and maybe the citizens of Newport should interpret the city charter and how the mayor conducts the council meetings. Except at last council meeting, she told me that I didn't understand anything about the city charter, so I couldn't know anything about it. She does say in the letter that she stopped practicing law in 2017. However, I believe that when someone has an active law license, whether they are practicing or not, they should really be bound by the group that licenses, and she should act within a professional code of conduct, and I don't necessarily believe that that's happening in this instance. She makes assumptions that the mayor is withholding information, and then she submits public records to gather information at tremendous cost to the city. And in that letter, she actually also prints a letter that was sent to the city anonymously, and then makes assumptions about the letter in her letter on Front Porch Forum. But maybe the mayor is actually acting in the confidentiality that's required of her position as the mayor. I would actually advise the citizens of Newport to stop listening to Ms. Bjerling's constant rants and maybe attend a city council meeting of your own or meet with the mayor to learn exactly what's going on. And the one last thing I would like to say is, Madam Mayor, I would appreciate it if maybe our council could understand about sharing information at council meetings. I was a little taken aback at the last council meeting when Mr. Charbonneau brought up 2 employees that were let go, and then mentioned our former zoning administrator who was in effect fired but then decided to retire, and then maybe it wasn't of his own choosing. And I was really taken aback by those words, and I don't think that it was appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Ms. Bjerling?
Jennifer Bjerling, resident of Newport, Vermont. I am the proverbial whipping post for the city, and I understand that. However, with that said, here are my expectations, and here are why I do the things I do. I believe that my elected city officials should obey the laws of Vermont. I believe that my elected city officials should abide by their own municipal policies, and I believe that my elected city officials should tell the truth. And when I don't see those things happening, and nobody else is willing to stand up and acknowledge the fact that those things are not happening, I will take it upon myself to do that. It is the right thing to do. And given the fact that I am upholding the law, I would argue that even though I'm not a practicing attorney, that I am doing what I should be doing as an attorney, because the law is important to me and I will uphold it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Ladd? Please.
Corner. Hi, I'm Pam Lads. Miss Bjerling does not speak for me. I realize she's presenting herself as Joan of Arc, but that's not what I came here to talk about today. We've just had an eclipse. It was amazing, and the city did the most incredible event production that they possibly could. I get it that you didn't arrange for the eclipse, but you controlled that massive number of vehicles that came into town. And the ones who got turned away from parking lots because it was full so fast found places along the street because neighbors came out and helped them. People stopped on the street, they talked to everybody, they helped people pack up. We heard about a bus of people from New York City who stopped at a farm and asked if they could stay there. They were given bathrooms, food, let the kids play down in the water. It was amazing. It really brought people together. It was community. And we'd lost community for quite a while, but it's coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I would like to read, before we go on to the next agenda item, a statement from our Senator Russ Ingalls. He sent this to me because he would like to thank all of the city employees for what they did do at the eclipse. And it says, Mayor Sullivan, I want to express how proud I am of what I just witnessed yesterday. That was the day of the eclipse. Yes, the eclipse totality and the weather did disappoint, but neither did Newport City. To lessen any traffic impacts, Deb, his partner, and I walked from our home to Prouty Beach. It's nearly 4 miles round trip that we walked through our city. Everywhere we looked, city employees and volunteers were doing everything they could to help the mass of people. Do you know how pleasant it is not to hear police sirens, disagreements, honking horns? All we saw were happy people being helped in every way by our city employees. So thank you, and please express my deepest and sincerest gratitude to the people, yours and my people, that made Newport City shine on such a beautiful day. Sincerely, Senator Russ Ingalls. And I have to tell you, that doesn't even rise to the level of the compliments that you all deserve. I mean, I can't even tell you how wonderful you were. It was just amazing. Amazing to see you all out there. It was amazing. I know Mr. Bernier was responding when he got a call. I was in a truck with Councilman Ufford Chase. I know the chief was there, the fire chief was there. Our city manager was there working with the fire chief, because that's what he also does. The volunteers, our rec department, and the people. I have been getting bombarded with thank yous. And when they write to me and say thank you to me, they don't mean me, they mean you. And I've been trying to share all of those by forwarding them, okay? And I mean that. People just speak through me because I am just the however that works. But it's you, okay? It's all of you who did this, and you just made Newport shine that day, just shine. And people are just writing about how they're coming back, and I have to thank you for that. So next, we're almost there. New business. President Fashawn?
Oh, I was going to talk about the eclipse too, but
Go for it.
just to
Top me, go ahead.
even to find the words to thank all the residents that just welcomed in this mass of people. I think our departments really showed why Newport can be the central hub for our community again. Not only planning out the event, but all the unplannable things which were covered. Everybody was happy, everybody was safe, and beyond it being this tremendous and sometimes emotional event for people, they knew, and citizens of Newport knew, that we were safe and everything was planned. So, again, I applaud you. Thank you. So, I just one more thing. We won't have a meeting before Green Up Day, but just remember to grab your Green Up bags right outside the rec and get out there and help clean our community.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilmember Charbonneau?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Curtis?
Ditto to what you and Council President said about the eclipse. Everyone that I encountered, mostly, obviously, not from here, were very polite, courteous. Thank you. Maple Fields was as busy as I've ever seen it. The line to the bathroom was massive. The food department was massive, but everyone that came here that I encountered was very pleasant. That's it.
And Councilman Alfred Chase, who really played a big part in it and even helped me get up the ladder. Any new?
I'll just join the chorus. I was thrilled with how things went, and I've had nothing but positive affirmation from all kinds of folks since the event a week ago. So I'm grateful too. I do want to let the council members know that I don't intend to make this a habit, but I will have to attend the next meeting electronically as well, because I'll be at the Main Street America Conference in Birmingham, Alabama, learning best practices for social and economic development in our communities like ours. So I apologize that I won't be there in person for the next meeting on the 6th of May.
That one I can accept because it's not tropical.
I'll just add, I wish you all were here in Costa Rica. It's beautiful.
Right. Treasurer Johnson?
Yeah, I've got some, you want to do these liquor licenses?
You do?
Okay. So I need the motion. Wow. To approve liquor licenses for the Tavern on the Hill, East Side Restaurant, RL Valley Incorporated, which is Maple Fields, and Northeast Pizza, which is Homes.
Do you need them, can we do it all in one sweep, or do you need
I would.
them all together?
I got them all named, you can do it all in one sweep.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve those 4 licenses, liquor licenses?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. That's it?
Okay, no, you wanna do the vendor's permits? Okay, I need a motion to approve vendor's permits for Chris Gagnon, which is Spicy Spoke. That's on the side of Main Street during the Wednesdays on Waterfront. And Green Mountain Farm to School, they run their van, and make lunches available for kids in the summer.
Just the 2?
Yeah, just the 2. We already did the events.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Any more?
No, that's it.
City manager?
Thank you. Other than the item that you're gonna talk about.
Okay. So, I had a meeting on April 13th with our governor and his cabinet members to discuss potential for Newport, and I was so pleased to have the city manager join me with those discussions. Those discussions actually revolved around how the state could help the city economically and housing and other matters, and we're going to be setting future meetings to get more deep into specifics and discussions. I am then going to ask that some of the council members individually join me in these discussions as well. It was totally positive with nothing but collaboration from the state, and they've already begun to send me information that we discussed so that I can bring that out and discuss that with the council members at the next council meeting. I do want to say that one of the, and this is just a discussion, topics was covered was where it might be more appropriate for our police department to settle. And there was nothing but positive feedback on that discussion. So I will keep everybody updated on that. And based on those discussions, the governor's also going to be doing some inquiries to see what information he can find out to make some of that work for us. So it was all positive, right? I mean, there was nothing that wasn't positive.
I think they were very enthusiastic to help Newport, and just said to let them know if we're applying for grants, that way they can kind of track them down and make sure they're getting the attention that they deserve. And I think it's good to hear that at the state level we have some support.
Yeah, and it was just nothing but positive, so I appreciate that. Okay, I do want to also say that I have taken several VLCT municipal trainings in my spare time. And then I'm going to ask that over the next couple of weeks, the city manager put together some VLC trainings for the department heads and maybe make some suggestions for the department heads to then whatever they want to use to drill down for their employees. Let the department heads decide that, but maybe give them a list of what you all discussed. Next item, old business. President Fashon?
No, thank you.
President Charbonneau?
No, thank you.
Did I say President Charbonneau?
You have two now.
All right, just because I said it, President Curtis. Constable Curtis.
No thanks.
Assistant President. Council Member Alfred Chase.
No, thank you.
Treasurer Johnson.
I do have something.
Why did I not go there?
So it's my night. If you don't mind, I'd like to respond to some of the things that were brought up at the last meeting.
Okay.
And my take on them. Some concerns are brought up about what's happening in the city. I'll do my best to respond what I think the take is. Been nice if they'd come into the office and talk to me about it prior to that, but I'll do my best to respond. I'm going to read this from the. First of all, the leachate. The leachate is not reflected in the general fund. There was revenue in the sewer fund, and I assume the loss is reflected in the sewer budget that was approved by the city council. It does, however, affect the general fund indirectly through the loss of revenue in the sewer fund. Second one, the treasurer's office is only involved in the budgeting process. The fact that we submit a proposed annual budget like any other department. The treasurer's office is not responsible for keeping the council updated on the budget expenditures throughout the year. That rests, in my opinion, with the manager's office and the comptroller. There was a comment, concern about ARPA funds. ARPA funds are not mixed in the general fund. They have a separate account. The funds were approved for use by the last city manager's office, okay, and the funds were paid back when tax revenue was collected. School funds are collected during the collection of property taxes twice a year. The funds are then deposited in the school operating account, and there is a liability account set up for school funds in the trial balance, so you know how much is due. There are many conversations with the mayor about what's happening in the treasurer's office. I don't know what that alludes to. I've had several conversations with the mayor, and I believe she can attest to the fact that they've all been pretty positive conversations I've had with the mayor. If any of the council members have questions, they are welcome to come in and discuss them. And any unintended errors are corrected immediately when discovered by us or the auditors. Other than water and sewer rates, I have no idea what is majorly wrong with city operation. I'm not privy to that stuff. We've already talked about the cemetery and Niles fund. There was a question on the $10,000 in the cemetery fund. That is a transfer from the investment account to the cemetery's checking account to pay for things like mowing and cleaning of stones and that type of thing. Expenditures are normally approved, or have been, approved by the cemetery commission, and occasionally transfers are made in the same manner to the Niles fund checking account to pay for beneficiaries. Now to the major thing, the last meeting is the line of credit. This is my take on it. The line of credit is approved by the city council at the beginning of every fiscal year. It's approved with the knowledge that on behalf of the city, the treasurer will draw down the line of credit when and if needed. Some years the city didn't need to draw down the line of credit, possibly because the city had reserve funds, which are not there anymore. The situation now is a cash flow problem. The treasurer's office collects revenue from the sewer and water funds, property taxes, and miscellaneous other revenue. We pay the city's expenses and transfer school funds from the collected revenue. The revenue comes mainly from property taxes due on November 15th and May 15th. Revenue from the sewer and water funds come in quarterly. However, we all know the revenue from those funds does not match the expenses and has been subsidized by the general fund. Basically, we operate from July 1 until the collection of the first property tax installment, which starts around November 1st. If miscellaneous revenue in the meantime is not enough to pay the invoices during that period, the line of credit is used. The draw on the line of credit is paid back and the school taxes are transferred into the school account after taxes are collected. The same scenario is used again from January through May and June to the end of the year. I believe there are several reasons for the line of credit this year being so high, and some of the reasons are listed here. Some are unbudgeted expenses that are approved by the council. Health insurance went up 12%, and if you don't see anybody, that's, in my estimate, probably an extra $30,000. The PD contract, we had to pay retroactive, I believe, back to July of 2022. That cost the city approximately $190,000. It wasn't budgeted. The public works contract was retroactive, I believe, back to May of 2023. That cost the city approximately $20,000. We have on the books $240,000 in delinquent taxes. We have receivables of $93,000. We had a new position and a part-time position moved to full-time. That's the next additional $25,000. The fire department extraction equipment cost the city $110,000, and the total of that is about $710,000 of unbudgeted expense. Now, if you add in the water and sewer on top of that, at which point, the last time I checked, about a week ago, it was about $390,000 they're into the general fund this year on bills the general fund had to pay for them. And if you add that to the 710, you're a little over $1 million. That's why the line of credit for $1 million, in my opinion. John may have a different take on some of these, Becky may have a different take on some, but I think that's pretty accurate. And on top of that, there are grants that are reimbursable, which maybe some we don't have yet. I think John mentioned one for the police department. We're still waiting for.
Yeah, Stone Garden.
Yeah.
Just paid a bunch and just submit.
So I just want Stacy and I, and Robin, are there to work with the council on whatever information you need. But the treasurer's office is not responsible for nor does it control the expenditures. That is up to the manager's office, the comptroller, and the individual departments to stay within the budget. We simply pay invoices signed off on by the controller and are sent to us for payment. We can, however, tell if there are enough funds to pay the invoices that have been approved, and thus the line of credit is needed sometimes. In the end, I think it would be nice if there was some trust and teamwork between the council and the people who operate in the city on a day in, day out basis. To me, that teamwork and a little bit of trust is very important.
Thank you.
So that's my response to the concerns from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you for addressing those. City manager, do you have any? So the only other business I have is that the school trustees are supposed to be bonded. They've not ever been bonded. We're addressing that. My main concern also was whether or not the city was at least insured under their policy. We are. And so I'm getting more information on that. I'm still in conversations to work that through, and when I get that information, I will bring it to the council, and we'll know how to adjust that.
Yeah, I've also talked to the financial people in the grade school about that too.
Oh, good,
They didn't
okay.
know what to do.
Excellent, okay, thank you for getting me that information. Okay, so, next item on the agenda, you don't get to go yet. To schedule the next regularly to set the next meeting for the regularly scheduled council meeting of May 6, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So,
Is that going to be at 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock. With one of our council members in Alabama. He's so tired.
so moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the regular meeting at, is that 9 o'clock? What is that? At 9:10.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is